Before we begin, take a moment to imagine this. A ballroom filled with the richest and most powerful people in the country. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above hundreds of guests dressed in designer suits and luxury gowns. CEOs worth billions laughed, networked, and competed for attention. And in the very center of the room sat a woman worth more money than anyone else there. Yet not a single person wanted to dance with her. Why? Because she was sitting in a wheelchair. But what happened next left the entire ballroom speechless. One quiet single father stood up, walked across the room, and changed both of their lives forever. Before we begin this emotional story, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that kindness is often more valuable than money, status, or power. Now let's begin. The Grand Horizon Charity Gala was known as the most prestigious event in the city. Every year the world's top executives, investors, and entrepreneurs gathered under one roof. Invitations were nearly impossible to obtain. The ballroom looked like something from a dream. Massive crystal chandeliers hung from ceilings painted with gold details. White marble floors reflected thousands of tiny lights. A live orchestra played soft music while waiters carried silver trays filled with expensive drinks. Everyone important was there. But all eyes kept drifting toward one table. At that table sat Evelyn Carter. At 42 years old, Evelyn was one of the wealthiest women in America. She owned technology companies, real estate firms, healthcare corporations, and investment groups spread across multiple countries. Financial magazines called her the Billionaire Queen. Business channels followed her every move. People admired her intelligence. They respected her power. They envied her success. Yet none of them truly knew her. 3 years earlier, Evelyn's life had changed forever. A terrible accident during a business trip had severely injured her spine. Doctors saved her life. But they could not restore her ability to walk. Since then, Evelyn had relied on a wheelchair. At first she thought the hardest part would be physical recovery. She was wrong. The hardest part was discovering how quickly people changed. Before the accident, people rushed to impress her. After the accident, many treated her differently. Some spoke to her like a child. Others acted uncomfortable. A few even avoided eye contact altogether. The woman who once commanded boardrooms filled with executives now often felt invisible. Tonight was no different. As the evening progressed, conversations flowed throughout the ballroom. Executives exchanged business cards. Investors discussed opportunities. Politicians posed for photographs. Meanwhile, Evelyn sat quietly at her table. She smiled politely whenever someone approached. But she noticed something. Nobody stayed long. Nobody seemed interested in her as a person anymore. Most wanted publicity. Others wanted money. Few wanted genuine conversation. Then came the announcement. "Ladies and gentlemen," the host said. "As part of tonight's tradition, we invite guests to participate in the opening dance." Applause filled the room. Couples began moving toward the dance floor. The orchestra transitioned into a beautiful melody. Evelyn forced a smile. This moment always hurt. Every year. Every event. Every gathering. People danced. She watched. That was simply how things worked now. Or so she believed. Across the ballroom sat a man named Daniel Brooks. Daniel looked completely out of place among the wealthy guests. His suit was neat but old. His watch was inexpensive. His shoes had clearly been polished many times. At 38 years old, Daniel wasn't a CEO. He wasn't an investor. He wasn't famous. He was a maintenance supervisor for a community center. The only reason he attended the gala was because the center had received a charity grant from one of Evelyn's foundations. Daniel had been chosen to represent the organization. To most people in the room, he was nobody. But Daniel possessed something many of them lacked. Character. 8 years earlier, Daniel's wife had passed away after a sudden illness. Since then, he had raised his daughter Lily alone. Working 2 jobs. Missing sleep. Making sacrifices. Doing everything possible to give his little girl a good life. The experience had changed him. Loss taught him to see people differently. He learned that every smile hides a struggle. Every person carries pain. And genuine kindness matters more than status. As the music played, Daniel noticed Evelyn sitting alone. He watched several executives approach her table. Each exchanged brief words before leaving. Nobody asked her to dance. Nobody stayed. Nobody seemed interested in anything beyond her bank account. Daniel felt something tighten in his chest. Then he overheard a conversation nearby. A businessman laughed quietly. Imagine asking her to dance. Another smirked. Wouldn't exactly work, would it? The men chuckled. Daniel's expression hardened. He looked back toward Evelyn. She had clearly heard them. Though her smile remained, sadness flickered briefly across her eyes. In that moment Daniel made a decision. Not because she was wealthy. Not because she was famous. But because she looked lonely. And loneliness was something he understood very well. Ignoring the nervous voice in his head, Daniel stood. He adjusted his jacket. Then he began walking across the ballroom. Several guests noticed. Curious whispers spread. Where was he going? What was he doing? Daniel stopped beside Evelyn's table. She looked up. For a moment neither spoke. Then Daniel smiled warmly. Not the forced smile people used around powerful individuals. A genuine smile. The kind that reaches the eyes. Good evening, he said. Evelyn smiled politely. Good evening. Daniel took a breath. I know this might sound unusual. He extended his hand. But would you honor me with a dance? The ballroom seemed to freeze. Conversation stopped. Nearby guests stared openly. Some appeared confused. Others looked amused. Evelyn blinked. For a moment she wondered if she had misunderstood. A dance? She asked softly. Daniel nodded. Yes. She glanced toward her wheelchair. Then back at him. Most people don't ask. That's their loss. Something in his voice made her laugh. A real laugh. The first genuine laugh she'd experienced all evening. Daniel continued. I can't promise I'll be the best dancer here. A grin appeared on his face. Actually, I can guarantee I won't be. Evelyn laughed again. The tension surrounding her began to fade. Then she placed her hand in his. And together they moved toward the dance floor. Nobody knew what would happen next. But every person in that ballroom was watching. And none of them realized they were about to witness a moment that would be remembered for years. Because Daniel Brooks wasn't about to dance with Evelyn Carter out of pity. He was about to show an entire room what respect truly looked like. And before the night ended, both of their lives would change forever. To be continued.